What is up, everybody? My name is Blob and welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we are doing the outdoor lion paddock today, but just before I jumped into that, I wanted to give a little bit of an update on what has been going on with the sanctuary in between the last video and this one. Let's go and have a look, shall we? We finished the cheetah habitat this week and I'm loving how it looks. The whole thing is now complete and the cheetahs are in. This near side is the original bit, and this bit at the back here is where guests can do meet and greets with the cheetahs. Really loved how this turned out in the end. Next is a new addition and the Eurasia Lynx joining the sanctuary. This is going to have 3 separate viewing areas, and it will even include a backstage area up the top here for them to reside in. Speaking of new additions, Luna and Takani have welcomed 2 cubs to the sanctuary, a male and a female. Love to get your names down in the comments below. And last and by no means least, we've got the central gardens. This is going to be a central point in the sanctuary that is going to be enterable by 3 separate points, all being shown here. I cannot wait to get into this and show you them all in the future episodes. And welcome back. Yes, long time no speak. Nearly 2 weeks since my last video. I've had some personal bits to be dealing with, and then I was also doing some upgrades to the PC as well. The new GPU is now in, and it makes this place run smooth as bar, and it's amazing. I love it. So really happy with that, and it means I can crack on and keep working on this sanctuary, and glad to be doing so as well. In the background, it's just doing some basic terrain work. The shape of this habitat changed quite a few times. This sort of alcove bit at the back here that you see me squaring off was originally going to be where the keepers would do feeding from the other side, but then I ultimately decided that I didn't really want it to go further in this particular direction. I want people to wrap round into the central gardens and then go off onto the last sort of spiral of the sanctuary that will have the rest of the cats that haven't already been mentioned. I've currently got 2 more cats planned in this sort of general area. The Eurasia Lynx was one of them, and also another one that is going to be in this sort of general area around about where the lions and cheetahs are kept, but I'm not going to say anything more than that. And ironically, that after those 2 are added, that would actually bring our total animal count up to 6. 6 out of 12. That means we'll be halfway through the roster for the big cats. And I'm going to do a poll on a community post that you'll be able to start voting on as soon as this video is up. And it's generally going to be, I want to try and get the areas mentioned at the start of the video done before the end of February. If they are done, or if they're mainly done, would you guys want like an end of February tour where we sort of show roughly where we're at the halfway point in terms of the animals being put in? Since the last update, this place has grown dramatically, and I think it'd just be a nice way to sort of bring everyone up to fold if they haven't been able to catch the streams where I've been doing certain bits, or if they've maybe missed certain parts of the videos where they've not had the time to be able to sit down and watch them, and maybe just as a half an hour video that would just bring everyone up to speed and up to the same point is something that would be maybe in people's interest. But like I say, I'll leave that in the community tab for you to go and vote on after this video has been uploaded. Now back to the footage in the background, because that is why we are all here. This is the outdoor paddock for the lion habitat. So this is an area that isn't viewable from the restaurant. Obviously the last video was the indoor restaurant bit, and then you had the outdoor viewing for the lions as well. And I was going to try and carry on the trend of the foliage and rock work from that area and sort of bring it into this larger outdoor paddock, but I ultimately decided that I wanted to transition it back to the whole buffalo grass, more greener side of things, because I know for a fact that an animal that is going to be around here soon is going to be quite deserty, and I really want that to stand out, and I think that's going to be kind of difficult to do when the areas around it sort of take away from that and make it blend in more. While blending in isn't a bad thing, I also like the idea of that area just sort of standing out. Like I say, I want every single one of these habitats to pop and have something really unique about them. Obviously the lion's unique selling point is going to be the fact that you can view them while sitting in the restaurant. And then you've got the pillbox for the cougars. The Amma leopards have got the river that runs through the middle of their habitat. The cheetahs have got the up-close meet and greet that you can do with them. So I'm really trying to get something different for every single one of the cats that I've been putting in so far. But I do have something planned extra in, as well as the desert foliage for the next cat. But again, it's all teasers for what is going to be coming in future videos. The rock work here that I've placed down, I ultimately changed the colour of it because I think at this point I decided I don't want it to be deserty and whatnot, so I go through and change the colour of the rocks to match temperate. This rock work thing I'm using to the side here with all the different rocks is the faux rocks, and they've been coloured to match the natural colour rocks that are in the game. I'm going to put a link to that in the description if you guys want to use it. It's one of the only few sort of quality of life workshop items that I'll use just to help. I'm not going to keep like the color codes like pasted somewhere. I might as well just have this in the zoo because it's accessible at the time that way. But yeah, I'll put that in the description if you guys want to download it. Really, really good. It's insane. But some of the bits of the lion habitat I really wanted to incorporate for this outdoor yard was 2 separate viewing points. This bit that I'm sort of working on here with the rock work close to the restaurant is going to be 1 viewing point where the scratching post will be, and then a little bit further along on this left side here, I've dropped the terrain down a little bit onto sort of a platform, and then a little bit later on you'll see me add in a bedding rest point. And the idea being that you can sort of see them lounge outside. Lions are actually quite lazy creatures. A lot of the time you'll see them just lounging around in the sun when they're in their natural habitat. But this is in England, so whether they would be quite as lazy to cool off, I do not know. But yeah, just decorating the dry moat between the viewing areas and the lion habitat itself. I keep putting in this electric fence as well, but what I'll do is I'll lower it right down into the ground so that you can just see the top of it showing, because I don't really want it to be obscuring the view of anything like that. That's why I sunk down the sleeping area for the lions outside, because I know for a fact that if I hadn't sunk it down, because of how far you can sink down the fences in this game, you would have maybe had an impeded view. But this area here where I'm putting all the rocks down, this is where you can see we've got the slightly lowered down section for the bedding, and it's the area that I work on first because I just want it to be one of the vista points of this whole area. And the part above it as well is going to be somewhere that the lions can access as well, but purely for just a little bit of variation in the heights. Like I say, the elevation in your habitats is going to be such a key point to making them stand out and be different. If it was flat, then they don't really appeal as much. Obviously some animals would probably be better in a flatter terrain. Obviously if you was doing for polar bears natural habitat is just the tundra, like snow, which is flat. They don't really have to navigate mountains or any foliage or anything like that, so it definitely does work with some animals. But when you're looking at things like big cats that like to jump around a lot and they're quite active, obviously not going to be the case. When I'm looking back at this footage and looking at what I've built, I kind of think I might go back and redo some of the rear of the habitat. The retaining walls that I made for the Amma leopard is something that I've actually been using probably a little bit too much of, and I feel like this habitat has too much of an artificial feel. When you go to other habitats in the sanctuary like the cougar and the Amma leopard, when you're standing at the viewing points, I feel like you are more integrated in the nature side of things, whereas this, because there's so much retaining wall exposed and so much retaining wall visible while standing at the vista points, it probably feels more like your conventional zoo habitat as opposed to a sanctuary like I want this to be. So I think there's going to come a point where I will go back and rework the retaining walls and maybe just add in some chain link fence. Ultimately it's not really going to be too much better, but the visibility through the mesh fence, being able to see the nature on the other side, I feel like it's going to give you an opportunity to be integrated way more. You see me here using like the scenic road cam. This is just because I was on stream and whatnot, and people were sort of asking about vista points, and I was just giving them a little bit of a view of the vista points that are available on the lion habitat, or what I wanted to be viewable from the lion habitat. Just working on a lot of the foliage and rock work around this sort of sleeping area. I really wanted this to be a palette for the rest of the whole habitat, really. So the sort of the plants and the type of rocks and the color rocks that I used were really going to be the ones that were in this general area, just spread out across the whole habitat, with the exception of a few different trees and stuff like that. And then I go through and just spam down the buffalo grass. This was inevitable. It happens every single video. I love this. It's the best foliage piece in the game, without a shadow of a doubt. But then I do delete pieces where I then put some standing rocks in the habitat as well, and then I integrate some of the yellower grass. So you see that rock there that's in the middle of the screen. That one gets extended up a bit more, just to again give a bit more variance. You don't just want it to be a flat. As much as a lush habitat is nice to look at, you do want some variance and other things to take your eye, other than just the green grass. And then start blending in the fence the best I can. I think one of the things I struggle with a little bit still is where your terrain tends to dip down into a moat like this. I still struggle to try and make the rock work blend in with the flatter ground that it's meeting at ground level. But I think I managed to do a respectable job of it here. A lot of the time, rocks and grass really do a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of covering that sort of thing up. And this was something I was talking about while building this whole habitat on stream. I had a few people dropping in that pre-ordered the console edition. Those of you that don't know, if you ironically live under a temperate Planet Zoo rock, might not know that the console port for Planet Zoo is coming out in later March and is available for pre-order, of which you can get 3 additional animals. You can get the Komodo dragon, the Thompson gazelle, and the pygmy hippo. And they were just saying, I've pre-ordered it. Do you think that's a good thing to do? And I think generally it is. You know, this is a game that's had 4.5 years worth of love poured into it by the developers. They've listened to the player base for things that we want. Things like null paths. We've had even little things that people don't really think much of. Things like the random rotation is like huge for people now. It's such a nice quality of life change. Even things like the shops having the counters instead, it really increases the diversity of things that you can build in this game, having to not work around that big ugly grey shell. And here's hoping that they maybe change the staff buildings to work the same. Please, Frontier, if you're watching, I would love that. I will pay any amount of money. But yes, late March is when the Planet Zoo console edition is dropping, and I'm excited for this. I am not planning on playing it on console at all, but at the same time, I'm glad that it brings a new fold of players into the community and whatnot, and I really see it being just a really good thing for the game in general, in terms of the player bases and the player numbers and stuff like that. I will admit, I'm kind of glad that it's been announced, because I've always made a bit of a meme and a joke about people that whenever Planet Zoo posts something on Twitter, you'll always have a slew of people underneath in the replies literally just spamming console when coming to console when. And I guess this marks the end of an era. Those people hopefully will be no more, but no doubt there'll be something else that will start and spammed instead, and I wonder what it'll be. Probably birds or something like that. But I digress. Yeah, I'm interested to know, are there people that watch my videos that are going to be getting the console edition and don't actually play Planet Zoo? I did have someone, like I say, that was sort of saying that they pre-ordered it, and they said that even though they weren't able to play the game, they were still consuming content for the game, like watching YouTube videos and stuff like that, and watching people stream the game, which I find really fascinating, because it's not something I personally find myself doing. I might do it in advance if I know I'm going to be playing a game and I want to see whether it's going to be worth, but there was no guarantee that Planet Zoo was ever going to be coming to consoles and stuff like that. So, and I think there's going to be a bit of a caveat that people have to bear in mind when they start watching YouTube content if they're going to be playing the console edition, and that is because the season pass is going to be drip fed over the course of a year. A lot of these animals and potentially even pieces aren't going to be available, so people might be seeing me use pieces here that aren't available right off the bat, and they won't be able to find them in their game, and they might be a little bit confused as to why that is, but that's because they'll be gated behind these different obviously DLCs, and we don't actually know what order they're going to be coming in or what the time frame is going to be for each DLC. Like I say, this is a planned thing. They're hoping to get it all out in 1 year. So you might see me put warnings in my videos from time to time about pieces that I'm using that are maybe not available. Maybe when the game drops, I will make myself aware and educate myself on what pieces are available in the game from the get-go, just so that if I'm using a piece quite excessively, then I can say to people, look, just to let you know, this piece isn't in the game yet, but it is coming. It is something to look forward to when X DLC drops. Here you can see the use of the retaining wall. I'm just going to go back to the footage in the background for 1 second. I do feel like I excessively use it, and I think it is something I am going to tune back at a later date, but we'll see. We'll see. I want to get the rest of this area finished. Like I say, I've got a huge undertaking over the next sort of, what is it, the 7th today? Next, and it's a leap year as well. So next sort of 3 weeks, I've got quite an undertaking ahead of me in terms of wanting to get what I want finished. But I hope in the end it will be worth it. Like I say, check out the community tab and vote on that poll if you want the tour at the end of the month, because there's quite a lot coming. Adding in an acacia tree here, and then I think the other tree on the left that I put in was Mapingo tree, or I think these are called like Marasala trees. I don't know. Someone can correct my pronunciation, I'm sure. But yeah, just the acacia trees. These scream African savanna whenever you see them, so I had to have an acacia tree in here somewhere, of course. And then I start checking my sight lines again, something I do quite a lot. You see there's this rock at the front here that's clipping up out of the ground where the path almost meets the path. I'm going to be doing like a makeshift sign thing here. I'm going to be remastering it and making a better version of it, but I just wanted to make something that you could, I don't know, it was just a sign basically saying line, look out, and you could, the problem is you can't really see it from further back, so you only really know that you're at the line lookout when you're at the line lookout. But I put the vista point next to it anyway, the one that's in game where people can take photos and they can use it as like a photo op. Just another thing that makes this habitat a little bit unique. I don't really have anything like that at any of the other habitats, so yeah, again, just trying to make it unique. And then I'm just doing the background foliage here, just blending it in, because when you're standing at a vista points, when you can just see like over the top of the fence and just the sky, it's a bit not quite as nice. So just adding some foliage in here just to blend the background retaining wall with the sky, with the green foliage in the middle. Just using the usual bits of foliage here: ash trees, oak trees, cork trees, elm trees, and then the creosotes at the base of the trees just to blend it all in. And then by the looks of it, this is when I start putting the lines in to test the traversable area. Yeah, this is me doing the barrier. Obviously I had to redo the entranceway from the restaurant view into the main yard, because I was still using the old size gate. You see me replace it here. I remembered when I looked at it, I was like, aha, I have to replace this. So I go through and I delete it and recopy it from the other side where I had done the correct sizes for the line to use. And after I do that, I'm just basically testing the traversable area for the lines as well. Now, a thing I just want to clear up now is the original plan was I wanted to have this lion habitat with 2 male lions in. Then I wanted to have a separate lion habitat somewhere else in the sanctuary that had a pride of female white lions. I think ultimately I'm going to be scrapping that idea, and this is going to be the only lion habitat in this sanctuary. Purely because, given that I'm going to be roughly halfway through by the end of the month, do people really want to see another lion habitat in, say, just over a month's time or just over 2 months' time as part of the same project, when I could just incorporate all of those features as part of one habitat? So what I'm going to be doing is, this is going to be a pride of 4 lions. You've got the male, who's going to be called Bruce. We've got a female lion called Ashira, and then we've got 2 unnamed lions as well, female lions as well. One of them I'm going to try and get a white lion as well, just to keep that white lion part of it in as well. But here I'm now trying to work the guest side of the dry moat. Working on inclines is amazing, but it also is one of the most painful experiences that you will ever experience in your life. Forget the dentist, forget childbirth, being kicked in the balls. This is one of the most painful experiences that you will ever go through. I'm telling you right now, having to work on inclines like this it's the worst. It really is, but it's worth it for the aesthetic. That's the way I view it. So yeah, it was horrible to do. So I'm just doing this concrete barrier that sort of joins the moat up to the pathway here. It doesn't quite reach in some places, so I have to be quite coy with it. I'm like raising it up and down. I'm tilting it at different angles to try and get it to blend in really nicely, but it's not quite going how I want it to. So It's just me doing a lot of adjustments and stuff like that. And the other thing that's kind of irritating is that the concrete path doesn't quite match the path color as well. But when I put a barrier in a little bit later on, it does a good job of sort of taking your eye away from that sort of thing. You don't notice it unless you're really looking for it. Hopefully when you're coming down the ramp at either side to get to the lion habitat, you're not going to be looking at the floor, you're going to be trying to look at the lions. So yeah, that was my thought process going into this, and the color between the concrete and the path. But ultimately I'm happy with it. That's the thing that matters as well. I end up taking barriers from a few different areas of the zoo as well, or the sanctuary. I end up taking the wooden ones from the cougar habitat, and I end up using the glass panel barrier type things that I made for the cheetahs as well. I really need to redo those because they're made with old pieces, and now that we've got the new thinner glass pieces in the game, I can definitely do a better job of those. So I think I'm going to redo and remake those. And here's my makeshift sign. Again, this is just a placeholder. I wanted something to be here just to break up the two viewing areas from each other without using more retaining walls or mesh fence or anything like that. But we've obviously got this really cool sort of rusted lion statue that looks like it's made out of old car parts. So we end up using that again, and then I just do a little bit of rock work at the back here just to frame the whole statue, and then add aquatic wood with lettering at the front using the in-game letters. I really should start using Rice's fonts because I know that they're just way more flexible in terms of sizes, and they're just generally better fonts in terms of the style of lettering. But the rest of this video really is just going to be me working on this viewing area here, putting the barriers in, finishing this statue name type thing, and then on the other side of the camera that you can't see, I end up doing the foliage for that area as well, putting in some bins and benches, and that is basically it. So I'm going to leave you with the rest of this speed build. Thank you so much for all your support on all of the videos up to this point. Do not forget to check out the community tab and vote on the poll that I'm going to put over there. Love you all, and I will catch you all in the next video. Peace out. Bye bye.